Thank you once again. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mamta Siwakoti. I'm a lawyer, a digital right activist, and also a sort of a social media influencer based in Nepal. I'm also a fellow for APrIGF 2023, and I will be your moderator for the session. This fine morning, we will be engaging in a conversation on AI and emerging technologies. No, not the lunch break though. I cannot really go forward with this. Yeah. So AI and emerging technologies in Asia Pacific perspective, assessing the ethics behind it. And joining me today in this panel, we have some of the most dedicated and brilliant minds who have been tirelessly working in ensuring ethical AI in their respective regions. Yeah, so this is my introduction. Following as panelist, we have Ms. Remshay Ahmed from Pakistan. She's a communication and advocacy officer at Innovation for Change on Artificial Intelligence and Human Rights. She's advocating for South Asian female perspective and most recently has taken up research to hold governments and corporations in the region accountable for continued human rights abuses in AI. Further, we have Professor Choi joining us all the way from South Korea. He's a legal scholar specialized in technology policy, governing emerging technologies and intellectual property. He has been representing South Korea's internet community at national regional initiatives moderated by the IGF Secretariat of UN. He founded a nonprofit, the Global Poverty Public Awareness Project, inspired by Access to Knowledge Initiative. And he currently participates in IEEE Standards Working Group Algorithmic Bias Consideration and writes articles on AI ethics and governance, data ethics, among others. Further, we have Ms. Yajaswi. She is joining us a little closer to home from Sydney, and she is pursuing Masters in University of Sydney. She has been a human rights activist for the past 7 years and has engaged in diverse works in UN Women, Youth Gender Activism, US Embassy Youth Council, Youth Congress Nepal, among others. Further, we have Mr. Arzak Khan, again, joining us at probably around 4 a.m. from his home in Pakistan. So he's the South Asian lead for Innovation for Change, and he's the Global South-centric expert on AI and internet governance and founder of the Center for AI and Human Rights at the Innovation for Change Network. His work focuses on civic technologies for countering shrinking civic spaces. And last, but definitely not the least, Ms. Shradha Pandey. She's a fellow in APrIGF 2023. She's also a lawyer and digital right activist from India. And she has been an active member of Internet Society, Internet Governance Forum, International Telecommunication Union, APNIC, among others. She has a very diverse background as well. So in this span of 60 minutes, our panel of esteemed experts will explore the multifaceted dimensions of AI in Asia-Pacific context. This discussion will unravel intricate thread encompassing affordability, accessibility, inclusivity, data sovereignty, and human rights in the development and application of AI technologies. Our 5 distinguished speakers will embark on a journey of insights, sharing their perspective on the challenges and opportunities that AI innovation presents, particularly in developing countries. So now let me quickly walk you through the structure of our session. So for the first 15 minutes, we'll have opening statement from each of our speakers. And following that, our panel discussion will start, which has been divided into 3 different important segments of responsible AI in Asia Pacific. So first, we will discuss affordability, accessibility, and inclusivity. Following that, ethical consideration and human rights. Following that, data sovereignty. And then we will discuss a little on what can the possible way ahead be. So after that, we will go on with a quick question answer depending on the time that we have left. So without further ado, I hand the floor over to our speakers. The sequence will be Ms. Ahmed, Professor Choi, Ms. Rai, Mr. Khan, and Ms. Pandey. So I now yield the floor to Ms. Remshay Ahmed.
Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. I'm joining all the way from Pakistan. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction, Mamta, and for putting together this wonderful panel with esteemed speakers today. I'm Remshay Ahmed. You can call me Rems if it's easier to pronounce. I'm the Communications and Advocacy Officer at Innovation for Change South Asia Hub, where I'm working to address civic space challenges in the region by collaborating with journalists, activists, and human rights defenders from the entire region. Personally, I'm passionate about mainstreaming a consolidated South Asian perspective by working closely with feminists and youth groups, journalists, and human rights defenders in exile for the preservation of fundamental human rights. However, today we will be talking about the artificial intelligence landscape in South Asia and trying to understand the challenges as well as the opportunities to harness going further. When we talk about human rights, we need to incorporate digital rights as well so we can adopt a holistic view of all challenges facing humanity today. These days, there is a lot of conversation surrounding artificial intelligence and how, in its current form, where it is largely unregulated, it can adversely transform our accepted rules and dictums of fundamental human rights. Unregulated and unethical artificial intelligence, which does not incorporate the underlying ethos of humanity, is the most powerful weapon today. Being deployed by governments and corporations, it can pose risks for citizens, such as surveillance, tracking movements, and predicting human behavior through repeated observations, which create big data, which, when fed to AI driven tools, produce automated policy mechanisms that are far from human conscience, emotion, and needs. Therefore, the conversation around AI in this day and age needs to focus on ethics and regulation. While governments and corporations across the world are hasting towards adopting AI assisted tools, there is a need for academia to help us understand the direction we need to take to ensure this modern technology helps the human race rather than posing potential risk. For this, we need to pause and observe and see how AI is redefining our world, collect our own data, and advocate for it until our campaigning is turned into advocacy, which is then developed into policy mechanisms that are accepted across the world, especially global south. In South Asia, which I will be talking about specifically today, we have observed that the governments and security apparatus are rapidly using AI-assisted tools to track and control movements of journalists, activists, and human rights defenders, control and eliminate voices of dissent, control public opinion, and election outcomes. As more communities are getting online with very little to no digital literacy, there is a risk of exposing many South Asian communities to tracking, surveillance, disinformation ecosystems. Moreover, with the governance systems, there is no knowing exactly how citizens' right to privacy, information, access to fundamental rights will be adversely impacted. To highlight the case of South Asia, I4C South Asia Hub has developed the Pioneer Artificial Intelligence and Human Rights Center, which works for holding governments and corporations accountable for their continued human rights abuses, and it advocates for transparency and an ethical use of AI-assisted tools for the protection of democracy, citizens' rights, and freedom. We believe that civic tech initiatives can help address civic space challenges of modern times in the digital realm. Thank you.
Recently, I published my book on AI governance and ethics, and I mentioned about some reasonable regulatory framework when it comes to AI, because AI gives us a lot of risk, and then altogether with many benefits. But from the perspective of the Asian Pacific, we have not much discussion about it, and I believe this workshop in APrIGF is very much meaningful and very precious. And I have experienced that when I provide consulting to the several companies, they are very much into some benefit of the AI. But when I went to Rwanda, University of Rwanda, last month, I realized that, wow, there's the biggest gap between global South and global North. And then I believe Asian Pacific is kind of the global South if we discuss about some very not much developed several countries in East Asia. And I personally come to believe that some productive discussion about how we can handle the AI implication to the impact in terms of the impact of the Asia Pacific is very important. And today I'm going to discuss about some data sovereignty. Data sovereignty is very important, and because it depends on the policy. Should we become some user of the AI, or should I be a product of AI? Because AI large language model usually suck up all data of every individuals, and then so that they can make some good service. But did we ask ourselves that? Did we agree with this? No, not many people consciously agree with some data alone. So data providing of their personal information. That's why we are very much concerned about some data sovereignty, especially in Asian perspective. And then a second point is the affordability. Affordability is very important. And then because many rural, very not much productive, very poor countries, not much affordable to buy or use some AI tools, but they never realize that yet. But it's going to be problems soon. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So firstly, I definitely would want to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land we are here today and pay my respect to the elders past, present, and emerging. So when we talk about AI, there definitely are different perspectives, and as AI itself is a multifaceted subject, we have responsibilities. Each one of us has different understanding and responsibilities towards AI. While my fellow members here are lawyers, activists, researchers, I speak mostly from the direction of a human rights activist and the perspective of sustainability as a whole. So I believe that there are in extremes, there are two different voices that are coming up, like Geoffrey Hinton, the father of AI itself, are talking about the doomsday that AI might bring and how AI might actually harm the entire human race. But there are also perspectives where people say these are just to make people more aware and as well as sell AI overall. So I kind of am between, or believe both aspects, but it's our responsibility to understand as well as create policies and know who are liable for all these and actually act towards the possible solutions towards AI. So when I talk about sustainability and its AI and its relationship with sustainability, I definitely acknowledge the fact that AI and digitalization as a whole is a disruptive technology at the moment at hand. And the significant impact of this will come beforehand when the government and the regulatory bodies will even understand what the challenges these technologies might bring. So even in its infant stage, very large and diverse impacts have been seen in terms of environment, economic, and social aspects, and the challenges are only soaring up. But with this, we definitely should recognize the possibilities that AI is bringing with us, and it is important that government, the investors, the policymakers, and large institutions who are actually responsible for regulating these bodies should be liable and should be mindful about the possibilities of AI to create a sustainable world. So lately, digitalization and AI has been widely discussed. And on one hand, it is evident that AI is creating sustainability and supporting many sustainable development goals. To name specifically, it's reducing poverty, the SDG 1, it's helping SDG 7, affordable and clean energy, it's helping SDG 11, sustainable cities. But on the other hand, we are all aware of the problems that AI is bringing regarding the job descriptions that it's changing. And like Professor Choi said, it's a multifaceted and an issue which do not stand alone. So when we have people who already have limited job skills and AI is marking the standard high for any job descriptions, then this discrimination and inequality is definitely going to be higher in upcoming future. So with this prospect and consequences of digitalization, I especially hold the policymakers and investors of AI to be most responsible and liable for the good as well as possible betterment of the world.
Yes, Arzak, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mamta. For me, AI is one such technical field that is transforming human society to one of robots and machines. AI includes machine learning, natural language processing, big data analytics, algorithms, and much more. However, as human intelligence is marked by intrinsic biases in decision making, we are already seeing that such characteristics can also be found in most of the AI products that work with human-created intelligences. These phenomena of bias and discrimination rooted in a cluster of technologies and embedded in social systems are a threat to universal human rights. In my South Asian experiences, I've seen at firsthand that AI systems affect the human rights of vulnerable individuals and groups more by facilitating discrimination. Thus, it's creating a new form of oppression that's rooted in technology. Governments around the world, and most importantly, companies are turning to automated artificial intelligence tools to make sense of what people posting on social media for everything, ranging from hate speech detection to criminal investigations, tracking people's movement, tracking refugees, taking down hate speech content or extremist propaganda, are using automated technology to accomplish all these tasks on a massive scale and the kind of analysis that humans can achieve on a lesser scale. So my work at the AI Center for Human Rights and looks at primarily the implications of technological advancements in AI and its integration across society and the development of policy and governance solutions for the challenges rapidly emerging in the digital ecosystem because of AI. And I also explore the potential risks on use of AI systems deployed in critical infrastructure, mass manipulation, and platform regulation from a Global South perspective. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. It's wonderful to see such esteemed speakers speak about what their understanding and what their evaluation of AI and its role in innovation has been. So I come from a very analytical perspective based on the policies and trends that I'm observing in India in the recent times regarding the regulation, governance, and the rules of law that are being framed with respect to AI. So in 2022 alone, the revenue generated through artificial intelligence in India was over 12 billion US dollars. And that is a substantial number. So the government in India is trying to bring up new policies, new laws in a way to promote AI, to promote innovation through sustainable means of AI regulation. However, there are a lot of problems with respect to the way the laws have been framed and the erstwhile policies that are framed that they're now seeking to employ for the governance of AI. And they are at contradictions with each other at multiple levels. So I'll analyze some of the very few contradictions that have come up over the past and how the government is now trying to come up with new policies, new perspectives on how they can regulate it. So the trends of Indian government in recent times have been to highlight AI to become a global innovation hub, and they're encouraging a lot of new innovations in the field. But the question that keeps coming up over and over again is regarding the ownership or the protection of AI-related inventions and AI-related patents.
So the questions of copyright issues, such as who owns the copyright of a work that is generated by an AI, is something that is being questioned in the courts of law, as well as in policies that are being framed for governance. The question that we are also trying to grapple with is whether personhood can be attributed to an AI, because patents can only be granted to persons who bring up new innovative ideas and new creative inventions. So these trends are leading to a scenario where we are trying to obtain AI-generated works. We are trying to obtain copyrights and trademarks over AI-generated works and the patentability issues that are going along with it. Furthermore, we're also seeing antitrust and competition laws over companies which are using the algorithms, which are using AI for their regulations in their respective domains, and they're trying to see whether they are actually a violation of competitive practices. But since there are no strict laws about it, they're unable to figure out how to regulate these further. So this is again causing a lot of issues about the governance of this field, and each and every case is becoming an individual scenario, which is sort of trying to set a trend, but then it contradicts the next case that comes before the courts. So in recent times, the government is trying to come up with policies through its internal think tanks about how they can evaluate this process and come up with a streamlined approach. And they're trying to come up with new data protection laws, which are taking in public opinion. But the question still remains about how much of these public opinions are being heard and how much of them are being implemented in the policies that are ultimately framed and implemented in the country. Back to you.
Thank you, panelists. So a session before this, we discussed on whether we are ready for AI. And I guess the consensus was that we don't really have a choice. The fact is that AI is going to proliferate. It is actually proliferating. And the fact that we are all here working on its regulation means that we have a chance. We stand at the threshold of deciding whether it is going towards a responsible pathway or if it is going towards big companies, private entities, like it generally happens, just widening the digital divide as we go. So in this perspective, let us now hear again from Professor Choi how we can make AI more inclusive and what strategies can we adopt to increase the participation of underrepresented groups such as minorities and women in the less economically developed areas in both AI research, large language model, and the development of AI applications in Asia Pacific region. Over to you, Professor.
Yeah. Thank you, Mamta. As you see this graph, AI already surfaces human at the number of tasks, and then it also surfacing the handwriting recognition, speech recognition, image recognition, and reading comprehension. And then when it comes to generative AI has started, we're seeing a significant change in knowledge production and content production. Especially, we are experiencing which has never been new phenomena when in writing and content production. The problem is that my point is very clear. The problem is that as the rise of AI, large language model, all models has been provided by one country or two countries. Could you see the lot of the large language models? And then it's all from Silicon Valley, USA. There's no Asian. I can see only one or two. This is a fact that only two countries in Asia could produce the large language model. This is China and South Korea. And rest of them cannot make any large language model. This is reality. This is technical reality. It means that 90% of the all population in East Asia Pacific, they do not have any knowledge about their own algorithm on LLM, large language model, and they do not have their own control over their own data. This is a really striking difference between how we make the LLM model, how we consume the LLM model. because we are all Asian people population, 99% they are just users or consumer or data provider. They do not handle their own LLM model. This is a problem. Okay, this is my first point. The Asian Pacific people, they cannot have their own control on LLM, and they all are their customers or some data providers. My second point is that there's a growth of the training cost of large language model. As you see, there's some BERT, GPT-3, and Lambda, and Palm. So all language model training cost is skyrocketing, has been skyrocketing. It's very expensive. That means eventually the cost of the large language model training going to shift into the burden of the Asian Pacific users, I believe. How can do you have another alternative solution? No, there's not much solution. As much as you just depends on your commercial LLM model. But I have a suggestion that if we focusing on this open source model, we can say Bloom. Bloom is not the commercial proprietary model. This is the open source model. This is it provide 90. It provide 9 languages and open access. It's all free. It has been available collaboration with all across the world, large contributors and researchers. This is one of the really good example. And do you know Meta? Meta is a commercial company, but they decide to provide a large language model for free. This is a large language model, open source. We can say seamless M4T. This is a little bit different approach compared to some other language models. But we never know. We do not heard that much about open source model. That's why I very stress on. I'd like to put emphasis on the knowledge of open source LLM is very important in Asia Pacific. Yeah, that's enough. And then my point. Can I wrap up my point when it comes to segment number 1? Affordability very much linked to the cost of the LLM model training. But from now on, at this moment, the accessibility of the LLM model relatively very cheap because OpenAI decide to cutting down their cost of access very cheap. But after several years later, if they secure on their market domination in Asia Pacific, they're going to increase their own some access to the LLM model cost. It's going to be a lot of burden to the Asian Pacific people, especially in also including global South. Yeah. But as much as we just I saw many media coverage. They are really fascinated by technological development, OpenAI, GPT-4, GPT-3, and any of things. But we never know that the other side of the technology development, there's also open source. For technology media, they never talk about that much about open source because all LLM model should go to the commercial. I believe that some low-income countries, Asia Pacific, they cannot make it. They cannot make it, and that means it causes a lot of the information gap, and we can call it AI gap. AI gap is a looming problem. We never see it right now, but it is going to real problem. How can we change this the trend? How can we change it? Should the Asian Pacific make some new large language model, our own technology? Or it's almost impossible. But instead of this, we should know that there's some possibility of open source. Open source is really, the problem is that open source LLM has been attacked by so many commercial companies because they believe it's a copyright infringement. Well, I believe copyright infringement problem of the OpenAI solution, for example, Stability AI, is only part of the problem. Because of some commercial because of some open source AI have some copyright problem, should we delete all of it? No, I don't think so. Copyright problem we can negotiable and we can find an alternative way. But the blame of the copyright infringement is not much justification for the delete or some disregard of the open source model. I strongly suggest that open source model is one of the very good solution for the portability. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Professor. So definitely a lot of finances and a lot of technical expertise is required to make sure that we have functioning AI. So in that context, and as we advocate a lot of MSG, multi-stakeholder group collaboration, my question to Arzak is a potential collaboration, a public-private partnership possible to make sure that we can find some sort of cost-effective solution to cater the challenges that we find in developing countries?
Thank you, Mamta. I think true impact of AI-based solutions will be in our hospitals, on our farms, on the roads, in schools, in warehouses, and at homes, and almost in every sector of the digital economy. The capability to address unique challenges faced by our region is growing year on year as new applications emerge from the application of technical advancements, digitalization, which is very important, and as challenges are overcome, the barriers to adoptions are lower. In terms of opportunities, I think South Asia has a strong basis for progressing in AI technologies, as we are going through a digital revolutions of our own as well. So there is clear evidence that is emerging that each domain area in AI is reaching a level of maturity where wide-scale impacts are possible. Uptake is happening as well in countries like India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Nepal. But there is a need to accelerate the pace with appropriate public and private sector investment. Unfortunately, South Asia lacks a functioning ecosystem covering AI that can establish the foundations for boosting value created by innovative development and deployment of these technologies. No single player, I believe, can achieve this alone. The sharing of assets, technology, most importantly, skills and knowledge is crucial for it. In addition, for scaling the deployment of these technologies in real-world applications, the critical mass of engaged stakeholder is needed. A failure to properly invest in AI will significantly restrict South Asian engagement in emerging global AI markets. And as a consequence, we will see a negative impact on, in particularly B2B markets in which South Asia is growing stronger day by day. And in addition, I think if South Asia that trustworthy approach to AI, smart systems from other parts of the world which are not based on our social values are likely to take over our markets because there will be no alternatives to it.
Thank you. Thank you, Arzak. So while we are finding solutions in regards to accessibility and affordability, there are also talks, especially in developing regions of Asia Pacific, that there might be some human rights concerns. What if AI take away our job? What if our people are not capable enough to ensure that their job develop along with AI? So Yajaswi, in this light, as AI systems are increasing throughout the region, and there are a lot of opportunities that comes with it, there are also a lot of human rights issues that are being raised, especially concerning job security, privacy, among others. Like, what are your take on it, and how do you believe we can navigate this delicate balance between harnessing the benefit of AI while also safeguarding the human rights associated with it?
Like I said, it's a very multifaceted topic, and the investment and policy, as I say it, still plays a very crucial role into it. So when we talk about investment, we should think where are the source coming from? Like, for example, right now there is there's a very crucial case in Kenya, I guess, where people are asked to judge like, is this a bottle? Yes, this is a bottle. but also like very videos which take a lot of emotional toll, like which are in the history, which are very drenching and everything. So they are just being paid around $1 every hour, which is a lot than what it should be. Like emotional toll can definitely not be monetized, but it's still the source of our ease is coming from exploitation of human rights. And that's where we should draw our lines to form policies and our investments. Like, should $1 be given to those people just because I want my assignments to finish fast? So is that the thing? Apart from that, we also talk about the policies that come through, like, for example, there are different race of, not just a race, but also a collaboration to form better policies. For example, European Union is making laws to regulate AI, where like no massive supervision is allowed, or like the use of AI should be very transparent and everything. Whereas China is approaching a policy measure where a comprehensive approach is taken. And when we feel like the YouTube, where YouTube suggests us a video or a song, that's not going to harm us. But what if the entire population is actually being shown the same video, the same perspective, and given that, like, this was one of the most crucial issue raised during the election campaign of Donald Trump, and also in many other cases, election campaigns, where the entire population is being shown and like thrown the same videos, the same perspectives. There's a very interesting case where Indian children or like Indian youths were not one of the audience of many election campaigns because of the societal and like the societal reasons that they just listen to their parents while voting instead of voting liberally. So all these cases come together to make AI policies more convincing, but also in terms of where it should be featured the most and according to the need of society. I would also want to focus on the investment we do to our society as a whole, rather than solution which is just AI focused. For example, when Japan is advocating about the policies of AI, they confidently say that we don't need AI policies because we trust in our people. Like we know that AI, like people knows what's good and what's bad. So is investment in society equally important overall than just investing in AI? And I think yes, and it's both very necessary.
Thank you. Definitely. While AI makes our life a lot easier, ChatGPT makes it really easy for us to write assignment. Do we really know how the data is actually being processed or how it might later be used? And as very rightly pointed out, the citizens of Japan may be able enough to understand that the pretty package is not what it is made out to be, but citizens of Nepal, citizen of India, citizen of developing regions, or even majority of developed countries might not have that level of knowledge, which can lead to massive human right violation because of consumption itself. Now, this is an aspect of human right violation pertaining to consumption and private companies. But again, there also is a facet of human right violation pertaining to AI and government, regarding how government is using AI-powered tools for surveillance, among other things. And in this matter, I would like to pass the floor over to Rems, who has on-field experience on how AI is being used by governments in Pakistan, maybe just discussing a little bit on migration issues that is happening around the country, and just real case study on how it is actually happening. Over to you, Rems.
Thank you so much for that, Mamta. So we have evidence, and you can see it in our report as well, that's been published by the Artificial Intelligence and Human Rights Center, that when we look at AI, this lack of commitment to free speech and AI regulation is actually concerning. Algorithms and AI determine content visibility, leading to personalization that can reinforce biases and limit exposure to diverse views. This can be exploited to promote inflammatory content or disinformation, potentially undermining information diversity. Disinformation ecosystem in South Asia is a divisive factor when it comes to political engineering, especially understanding the time of elections and how that plays out. Now, this is a field that's been talked about, that is being considered, but at the same time, there's not enough data to support what needs to be done. And therefore, there is a dire need to understand what's actually happening on the basis of which we can further advocate as part of civil society groups. We know for a fact that the digital transformation has led to the rise of social networks and personalized news consumption, potentially contributing to echo chambers and political polarization. AI's ability to observe, analyze, and react in real time can lead to automated content moderation, increasing its role in shaping communication dynamics. When we specifically talk about AI surveillance, weak legal enforcement and authoritarian systems in countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, and Maldives often fail to protect individual rights in surveillance programs. AI surveillance amplifies these issues, enabling governments to automate monitoring functions and cast a wider surveillance net. Now, we know for a fact that Chinese companies are prominent suppliers of AI surveillance technology in the region, raising concerns about authoritarian technology export. And Pakistan is one such example where, in the name of safe cities, AI surveillance technology is being used without any safeguards. However, we also know that in countries with stronger rule of law traditions like India, ethical concerns arise due to facial recognition errors and biases in AI training datasets that impact predictive policing and other law enforcement tools. Now, if we take the concept of AI surveillance on migration and try to understand how that particular area or that particular group is being adversely impacted using AI technology, I'll be quoting two research reports from Europe's Techno Borders and Artificial Intelligence, the new frontier of the EU's border externalization strategy, which basically highlight how Europe has used AI tools to predict migration flows and has enacted muscling up policies for the externalization of migration control. There's this idea of smart borders, again, which is being adopted by countries across the global south, also owing to the political instability in some host countries which are bordering some other countries. Now, these tools make it possible to control activities beyond borders and to detect immigrants before they reach the borders using AI algorithms, drones, facial recognition systems, biometrics, satellite images, sensors, mobile operators, and social media data analysis. We also know for a fact that there is an Israeli security company, Elbit, which has established an advanced surveillance system, and it has been tested in Arizona. Now, when surveillance technologies are deployed with the purpose of anti-smuggling, trafficking, or counterterrorism in countries where democracies are fragile or there are authoritarian governments, they can easily end up being used for the repression of civic space and freedom of expression. What is being sold as tools to curb migration flows could actually be used to reinforce the security apparatus of the repressive governments, which can in turn fuel instability in the region. Examples of these are Africa and the Middle East, and this has been deployed by European countries for a very long time. At the same time, Europe's Techno Borders highlights how the security obsession has been applied to the EU's border for decades, equipping them with ever more advanced technologies. There's no end to it. Whoever manages to enter or cross over these smart or heavily controlled borders, they are biometrically registered and screened against large-scale databases, raising serious concerns on privacy violations, data protection breaches, and questions of proportionality. Now, apply this to a region like South Asia and countries like, for instance, Pakistan and Afghanistan. We know for a fact that security agencies are regularly tracking Afghan journalists, activists, human rights defenders who are fleeing the country in search of safety via social media platforms. But what we need to now gauge is see how and to what extent AI-assisted tools are being used. The same can also be applied for countries like Myanmar, from where the activists are fleeing all across the region of Southeast Asia. The use of automated risk assessment and profiling systems during migration procedures is a dangerous practice because it poses a serious threat to the right to non-discrimination, both directly and indirectly. Such systems by nature violate the right to non-discrimination in the migration context insofar as they codify assumptions about the link between personal data and characteristics with particular risks. People are no longer judged on individual behavior or on factors within their control, but rather by predetermined characteristics such as nationality. This is the very essence of what non-discrimination law seeks to prevent and prohibit. The entire process of algorithmic profiling also infringes a number of subsequent fundamental rights, which include the right to privacy and family life, the right to personal data protection, the right to a fair trial, and the presumption of innocence, as well as the right to an effective remedy. The challenge for these people living in exile or for people who fled in search of a new home is that however we're feeding the data into the system, we do not know how it is being manipulated and how it is being automated. And on the basis of these data sets, when it is incorporated into policy mechanisms, what we will see is that the countries are actually going to be muscling up against migrants, and these migrants will have nowhere to go. We need to create a world that is empathetic, and AI is not doing that. But at the same time, we also need to understand that AI is replicating the data sets, the big data that it has, it's using that to create something. So maybe our opportunity lies in understanding how these big data sets are being collected, put a lot of human emotion, intellect into it, which again, AI does not have. That's something that we can harness. And on the basis of that, our policy mechanisms should work. It shouldn't be the other way around. It shouldn't be a computer dictating us how our policies would work, how we can make the world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Rems. Definitely, it's a very nuanced area. And in developing countries, even the most developed areas do not have effective laws. And when it comes to areas such as AI, the government themselves are in dilemma in regards to what actually can be implemented and how can it be implemented. Now, while the general data protection regulation has set a global benchmark for how data protection, privacy, harvesting, etc., can be conducted, it has stipulated principles such as lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. However, in many South Asia and Southeast Asian countries, that is a far cry from reality. Coming from a legal fraternity in Nepal myself, we do have privacy-related act and regulation, but then there are rarely mechanisms that actually defines what consent actually is, how can you actually go about getting consent in regards to data. So a lot of technical aspect relating to it. So we will be wrapping up the session with a final question to Shradha in regards to what her thoughts are in regards to legal development on data in India. And then we will open the floor for questions.
I don't think we have the time for that, so I'm going to keep it very short. What I'm looking at the moment is with respect to governance and policies that are being framed for artificial intelligence and assistive technologies. Currently, the governments as well as the companies are managing and they're working in a gray area where there are no rules that expressly allow you to utilize these assistive technologies. There's nothing that expressly bars you either. So that allows you to function in that gray area and utilize those technologies, especially if you have the means to utilize them and if you're rich enough to utilize them. So that has to be streamlined. And there are certain policies that are being highlighted, that are being brought to the forefront, such as making a lot of the generative AI data public and open source as long as it's anonymous. as long as it's maintaining the privacy of the individuals. So what they're doing is all the publicly shareable data, they're trying to bring that together to leverage the AI in the field of healthcare, in the field of road safety, in the field of detection of financial frauds that are being committed against people, to promote the ethical and responsible use of AI systems, to build these bias-free data sets that are that can be created over a period of time, to build fairness and transparency. And one of the most important feature that is being highlighted, and it is currently going in the right direction, is building an accountability feature in these AI systems by making it more transparent. So along with that, providing a certification of the AI systems and providing incentives for compliance and spreading awareness about these privacy features and the problems that were pointed out by almost all speakers is the need of the hour. Thank you.
Thank you. While I understand that the timer here shows that our time is up, I just have a small note that we started a little late. So at around, we do have another session. So maybe if with the permission of the organizer, if 1 minute, do we move on? Yeah, so I request Professor Choi to give his concluding remark, and we'll formally close the session.
Recording stopped.
Yeah, thank you so much. When it comes to data sovereignty, I should tell you, we should remember that the data sovereignty is the first step to the AI sovereignty. I believe the Asian Pacific region, usually consumer of the AI platform, but we need to find out a way to secure our data sovereignty. When it comes to data sovereignty, this is AI sovereignty consists of two segments. First is the data sovereignty. Second is non-dependent technology access. When it comes to non-dependent technology access, it should be open
Recording
source.
in progress.
And data sovereignty means that we should follow the way of the GDPR, European Data Protection Regulation. Is already spread all over the world. South Korea and Japan already adopted this. But could you see this map? Now all countries in Asia Pacific, they do not adopt it. They did not adopt the European GDPR privacy regulation. That means Asian Pacific region should secure their sovereignty with their privacy rule, and privacy law will define which data should go there, or which one should not go there. This is very important. The way I'd like to make most of this place to stress that your country, your policymakers should think about data sovereignty is very important, because you're not product of the AI. You should be a responsible AI innovator and user. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor. Thank you, everyone. And I end the session by saying that we are very thankful, and we only took around 50 minutes, just a point. And yeah, we could definitely reach out to us. And if you want contact information of any speakers, it is right there in the website. Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Great. Thank you so much for wonderful insights, everyone. Really happy to be here and share this space with you all. Take care. Bye.
And Lems, thank you. I appreciate your commitment. I like yours. And we better have some another chance to discuss about this, because 1 hour is too short. And I have a lot of content that never represent you. But it's a really meaningful approach. Thank you. I'm glad to see you here.
Great. Yeah, likewise. Let's connect, and then we'll take it forward and see what more we can do together.
Yeah, if you email me, I'll definitely get back to you. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll do that right away. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye. And bye, Kisan. Yeah.